All right, it's a brand new episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. I am Josue Pavon. He is Cedric Maxwell. We're here to recap the NBA Finals. Man, what a run from the Boston Celtics. What a run.
We're going to start out this Josue, the news breaker. Oh, my God.
Yo, it's been a while.
I don't think I've had more people talking about me, about what happened with me and Draymond Green. It went national. It went around
Gary
the world.
Payton too.
And Josue was the guy who had the camera behind the camera. Every time I looked around, I think Josue, every time he saw me near Gary Payton or he saw Draymond, Josue had the camera. Like, well, let me get over here.
It's must-see TV, Max. Come on now. And you know what? Before I could even start the interview with Gary, as soon as he locked eyes on you, he knew he had to talk trash after game two. So because of the conversation you two had in game one, which wasn't documented, but you talked about, what was it, on 98.5, the Sports Hub, you talked about, he was telling you, well, enjoy this one because you're not going to get the next one. And then after game two, he was right.
Yeah, Gary said some things, and, you know, I had some fun with him. It just got to the point where I think for me, it was overload. I had more people talking to me about, I think I had more vested in this series emotionally than I've had since I was a player because of all the noise, because of all the Draymond talk, because of Draymond Green coming up to me, because of some of the things that people have said. And it felt like, for me, it felt like I was involved in the series. I wasn't playing, and I was a big storyline, which really shouldn't have been there. It was a comment that I made, and Draymond really just kind of came back at me, and I told him.
He responded to it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and at the very end, I think you saw the second part of it when I was talking to Gary Payton, and Draymond came up, and
I saw that. I did.
You don't talk to him. You don't talk. You protect me. If a man is talking about me like that, you protect me. And I was like, what? And Gary was looking at him like, what? And we both now looked at each other. And I told Draymond, I said, Draymond, I'm right here. You need to talk to me. He's like, I don't want to talk to you. And then at that point, I knew that it was going to get from bad to worse. And so I told Gary Payton at that time, and you know how we keep it on the 100, I said, Gary, I'm going to do something right here. I'm going to get the fuck out of here right now, okay? Because I know this is about to get crazy. And when I walked out, he was still talking to Gary. And when I walked out, he kind of followed me. And then that's when we met in the hallway. And I turned around and I said, Draymond, he's like, well, you know, when a man says something like that a man, you know, you said that somebody's going to punch me in the mouth. And you got to be by your word. I said, I am about my word. But I didn't want to inflame it because I could have. Because when you said you said that somebody's going to punch me in the mouth, I didn't say that. What I said was somebody should have knocked you the fuck out if you've been playing during the 80s. That's
right. But that's the thing. If you had been playing during the 80s, that's the big difference. You weren't saying if I was out there, I would knock him out. No, you were saying if this basketball was going down back then, the way he was playing in game one or game two, rather, you know, in your era and in Gary's era. And the thing that pissed him off, in my opinion, was that Gary agreed with you. I think that's the part that didn't sit well with him because, and then he tried to change the conversation, right? He started talking about Bill and beer, started talking about, you know, as if you weren't about that life, right, Max? And I thought you said it, nicely, rather. Not perfectly, but I would say you said it nicely when you said, maybe you should go. You weren't alive when I was doing this. Maybe you should go ask your daddy about that. Go ask your dad. He would remember. That was funny.
Yeah, but it really, I didn't have any stake in it. You know, I wanted.
Right. None of this is personal. Right.
Obviously, I wanted the Celtics to win, but it wasn't to the point where I felt like I was trying to attack him. I was just saying what would happen. And I polled almost every one of my friends who played during the 80s. I went to, as he said, I went over and I talked to Bob McAdoo. I talked to Chris Ford. I talked to ML Carr. I talked to Ricky Mahorn. And to a man, everybody said the same thing. They said the same exact thing. So I wasn't trying to berate him. And at the very end of the conversation he and I said, yo, man, actually, I like you. I said, are we good? Are we? And that's when I had his hand. And I said, we good. And we kind of shook hands, and he's like, yeah, whatever. And he walked away, and I walked away. And that was, I thought, the end of the story until I see the next day, Josue was on the beat again. Someplace in the background going, before I could get home, somebody said, who put that out? Sean Grady said, who put that out? See, what is the name of that? Said, oh, that would be Josue's company right now.
CLNS.
Because he followed that puppy all the way down the line. But, again, it wasn't about me. It was more about the Celtics. And now the Celtics are losing this series. And I think the Celtics really lost this series in Game 4. Being at home, being up 2-1, being at home for Game 4, and having the chance late in that basketball game, being ahead. And Steph Curry would not let the reins go, as he just came at the Celtics left and right. And man, he alone was tremendous. There were other guys who stepped up, and I think probably one of the biggest surprises for me was Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins was tremendous in that series. If he didn't get it, if you looked at that series and if you did not have Curry getting the MVP, it should have been Andrew Wiggins because
no question.
Because he was a guy, essentially, he heads up with Tatum all night. And I think he was stronger. He was bigger. He was quicker. He beat him to the spots. And individually, he was able to contain him. You look at what Jayson Tatum did in this series. He averaged about 20, but he had in the playoffs something I didn't think could happen. But in the playoffs so far, in 18 games, or how many games the Celtics played during this time? He had 100 turnovers, which is one of the records which probably is going to stand for a minute.
Oh yeah, it's going to be up there for a while. Well, I just think that was the part of his game that was overlooked throughout the run, right? I mean, you saw what he did in each and every series. He was the important performance that you needed to win every single way, right? Every single step along the way. Whether it was against the Miami Heat, his big performance probably the best performance of his career, right? Game 6. Or what he did against the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, I just think when it came down to Tatum and the Celtics was that the fourth quarter late game execution. There was just turnovers after turnovers, and it was from the guys the three guys that you needed to clean it up the most, right? Between Tatum, between Brown, between Marcus Smart, and the Golden State Warriors, they capitalized on that, right? I mean, the Celtics, they survived some big punches, but when it came down to it in those fourth quarters and those most important stretches of the game, the last 5 minutes of the game, the Golden State Warriors took care of business, especially in the last 2 games.
Well, and you take that series even further and you start looking at maybe the bench contribution. Derek White was great in that first game. He was tremendous. Then after that, it was a gradual decline. Essentially, he just fell off. You got nothing from Payton. You look at Grant Williams, who had been so good during the playoffs. He was essentially invisible during the playoffs. He didn't have anything, and the bench production from the Celtics was a killer. Because I think if you look at Jordan Poole, essentially outscored the Celtics bench almost each and every night he walked on the floor. So the Celtics have to do some fine tuning. And it's just sad because Al Horford was a beast from time to time.
Especially in Game 6. He started the comeback.
Yeah, he would not let the reins go. But Steph Curry, you can't give him that kind of leeway. And I think he did a great job coaching. But one thing, if he looks back on it, he's going to have to find a way to give Tatum an opportunity to rest in the game. And very much like, Steph Curry. Steph Curry would come out of the game and then they would bring Jordan Poole in, but they would continue their pace or they would go up, even more with their scoring. Celtics didn't have that. And that's why I think Ime essentially had a hand tied behind his back, especially in those last 3-4 games.
Well, Max, he didn't trust the bench. And, when it came to guys that he needed to step in, they didn't contribute after Game 1. I think this was the mistake that we did, though. This is the mistake that we did, Max. We put this invisible cloak on top of, whether it was Derek White or Grant Williams, because they did it in specific games, like Game 1 in the finals. Like the big performance Grant gave you, against the Bucks, against Giannis. We imagine them doing that throughout the championship, throughout the NBA Finals, at the biggest stage. That was a big mistake, and thinking that they could take on that type of challenge. They weren't ready for that. They showed you flashes of it, but they didn't do it consistently enough.
Here's the thing about it. They had their opportunities. I think that's what you look at. They had their opportunities.
Well, yeah, because those are the guys that he trusted. Obviously, those are the three guys. Or two guys.
The times that you brought in Pritchard.
Pritchard.
Pritchard, and you played. Pritchard and White were in the game together, and that's when I think Golden State went on a 21-0 roll.
Run.
You couldn't have those two guys in the game at the same time, and those are the kind of results you were getting. I think D-May would probably be kicking himself over that one particular thing. Everything else, I think, he did what he could do, and this team just did not have enough at the end of the day.
Well, we knew how top-heavy they are throughout the postseason. Those are the guys that carry this team, and I just felt like those are the guys that, whether you want to say they were exhausted or whether they were too into their head, but they made some crucial mistakes in those fourth quarter stretches. Golden State Warriors capitalize on that. You're not going to survive games where you're committing 17, 18 turnovers and expect to win. I mean, those are 30, 35 points you're just giving to the Golden State Warriors. And that was no recipe for success. They never cleaned it up after the first two games. The turnovers was always an issue.
Yeah, I remember looking, I think it was game 5 in Golden State. And Sean Grandy, my broadcaster partner, and I had talked about it, said, well, what the Celtics have to do is clean up the turnovers. And the first possession the Celtics had, Jayson Tatum flies through, going to his left, and throws the ball out of bounds. It's like, dude, you just went over what you had to do and essentially failed. But here's the thing about it. I think this was a learning block. It was a platform to learn on. And will Tatum and Brown be back? Yeah, I think they will be. But also look at the Eastern Conference. Will it be better? How will those guys compete? Because right now they have the Celtics at the top. And one thing we know, that when you're at the top, you are going to be the hunted. You are going to be the hunted. So the Celtics are going to be the hunted. And Tatum will be, probably more than anybody, be in a situation where people are going to look at him and judge him fairly or unfairly as the dude on this team.
This episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast is brought to you by Indeed. No one has a business like yours with all its strengths and challenges. To succeed, you need a hiring partner that adapts your needs, and you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. Find great talent faster through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match assessments and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get qualified candidates whose resume on Indeed match their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed Data US. One of the things I love about Indeed is the fact that it makes it so easy for you to hire. It takes less than 10 minutes for most SMB employers to post a job. According to Indeed data, Indeed does the hard work for you. When you pay to post a job, Instant Match shows candidates whose resume on Indeed fit your description immediately after you post, so you can hire faster. With Indeed, you can select for the skills that matter to you the most. Add from a selection of over 100 Indeed assessment tests to your job post and hone in on the candidates with the right skills faster. Indeed has such great talent. In fact, 3 out of 4 of U.S. online job seekers search for jobs on Indeed each month, according to ComSource. Even better, Indeed is the only job site where you can pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. Indeed is an unbelievably powerful hiring partner, delivering 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to CLNS in 2019. Start hiring now with the $75 job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Maxwell. Offer is good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit right now at Indeed.com/Maxwell. That's Indeed.com/Maxwell. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Man, one stat I'll give you, and I'm not big about stats, but Larry Bird in 1981, during his first championship run, he averaged 15 points a game, shot about 40% from the field. But what did he do? His greatness and this is where Tatum has to get. Larry Bird averaged 15 rebounds a game, 7 assists, and had 42 steals in a 6-game series. So that is what we didn't see, the imprint that Tatum had to put into a building like that. Because the Celtics many times got killed on the glass, and you never bigger, stronger team. Looney did a great job of getting out early. Draymond got some.
Well, the second chance opportunities that crushed the Celtics too. How many offensive rebounds did the Golden State Warriors come up with? A lot. And you said it, Looney, Draymond. I mean, guys were getting it in there. But what do you think? What do you think the reasons behind that? Is someone like Tatum, maybe not specifically just the rebounding aspect of things, but why couldn't we see more games with Tatum was better in those situations? Whether it was shooting down the stretch in those fourth quarter, or when it was down to like the last few minutes, or whether it was just him overall and committing so many turnovers. Did you ask Tatum ever to be that kind of rebounder? Did anybody ask him of that? I think people were satisfied. If you got 7-8 rebounds, you were good. But the great ones, when you put an imprint on a team or on a series, you have to do what you have to do and make those contributions that are going to change the trajectory of a series. The Celtics didn't do that after they lost game 4 here, where they should have won that. It seemed like they were on a sinking ship for the rest of the series. Well, I feel like they were confident because of the way they bounced back in every other game throughout the playoffs, or how that's been their MO. And going up against a team like the Golden State Warriors, well, they respond well too. I just think the Celtics in certain stretches, especially in the second half, when the Warriors went on their, when they became the third quarter Warriors and they hit you with a big run, I just feel like the Celtics were they were too lenient on what they used to do in the past, or saying all the right things, but not actually executing when it came down to it.
But you think about the defensive pressure they had. They did a great job against Clay. They contained him. But guys that hurt you with the Jordan Pooles of the world, knocking down shots. Otto Porter, the shots he was hitting from the top and corner. Those were the shots that hurt you. And then you put Wiggins in the mix. You just didn't think that Wiggins would have that kind of impact on a 7-game. I thought that clearly that's where the Celtics had the advantage with their forwards. I thought that Tatum would dominate Wiggins, and that didn't happen. If anything, I think Wiggins actually outplayed Tatum, and that put you on the backside of doing nothing because Brown scored the basketball. Brown was probably as effective as anybody. And Marcus was a little shaky on this offensive end, and defensively, I don't know what you're going to do with Steph shooting from half court. I don't even know. Yeah,
it's unfortunate because, Max, I can't help but wonder if this team was just maybe if things had clicked earlier in the season, would they have been ready for this? But then you wonder maybe this is just part of their growth. This is just part of the process here, and that we just got a little too excited and thinking that they were going to just make that leap, make that final leap, just because of the way they went about things, right? Going up against the best teams the Eastern Conference had to offer, being in these type of situations where they were, in the face of adversity, facing elimination, the way they would bounce back against specific teams throughout this run. But you also have to remember, Mac, they got some breaks as well. And look, that happens to most teams that make it to the NBA Finals. But whether you want to point to the Chris Middleton injury, whether some people like to point to the Jimmy Butler, if he didn't attempt that 3, or if he made that 3 rather in Game 7, did the Celtics even make it this far? I don't know. What's your take on it?
I don't look at it that way. I think the Celtics made their own breaks. And what everybody said for the longest time was, oh, my God, you can't play Brooklyn. You can't be in second. And then what happened? They're in second. They got to play Brooklyn. Everybody said, oh, my God, what a murderous road you have to go through. If you beat Brooklyn, now you got the defending world champions in Milwaukee. Yeah, they didn't have Middleton, but still.
The revenge tour.
They had Giannis. Then you turn around and you had Miami with Jimmy Butler, who was so good. And he probably had the game of his life. So I just think that the Celtics played inspired basketball. They had their opportunities. And Game 4 will always stand with me because they were ahead late in that basketball game. And all of a sudden, Golden State went on a roll. They beat them 2-2 going back, and that kind of took the air out of the bubble.
Yeah, no question. No question. That was the one that got away in game 2 too. I mean, granted, it wasn't pretty, but it was in San Francisco. You had a lead, and the Warriors just they went on that run, but they couldn't survive it, in the second half. But yeah, I'm interested to see how Tatum bounces back. I was talking with Bobby Manning on the Garden Report about how I want to see the dark side of Tatum. I feel like most of the best NBA players, they go through this dark period where everyone is questioning them. And I mean, sure, Tatum's been through that to a certain extent, but not quite like this when the championship's on the line and people are questioning if you're just not about it. Are you afraid of this moment? You're not ready. Maybe you're not a top 5 Tatum as people say you are. What do you think happens? In my opinion, if he's not the guy who's always smiling, and if he goes into rah-rah mode, always huffing and puffing, sort of like what Giannis did. Remember how Giannis sort of transformed along with his body and his physique as well? But something like that. If that happens, I wouldn't be surprised. But then again, Tatum, maybe he stays the same. Maybe he keeps the same demeanor that he's always been. And this is something that goes back to his days in Duke that people used to keep an eye on, saying, like, is he ever going to have that eye of the tiger in him? Or is he going to be, if you're ever going to turn that tide?
Yeah, I think you look at it and you're going, that's it to me, dark Tatum. And I think that, it's going to be a big difference. And him being a little bit meaner and a little bit more aggressive. I want to see that. I mean, I was appalled. I think it was game 4 or game 5 when Draymond Green, Celtics called timeout. Tatum had the basketball walking off the floor.
Oh, game 5.
Draymond Green followed him all the way to the Celtics. And nobody on the Celtics said, get the hell out of here.
Everyone just watched him. People they just watched him like he was like a teacher in the middle class.
Like they were watching the damn movie. I'm like, nobody?
That's a great point. That's a great point.
To this guy, I mean,
but see, Mac, these are mind games. This is what Draymond did throughout the series, and he won. Celtics fans don't want to hear that, but he won. I don't mean because he's gonna get a ring on his finger or a fourth one. I mean he won the mind games. He was in their head. He had real estate.
Well, he did, but it shouldn't have been the case because somebody on that bench. Because you didn't walk. He walked to your bench. He walked onto your bench in the middle of in your lane.
And this isn't even right.
That's like a dude coming in your house, man, and just going in your refrigerator without even asking. They're like, what the hell are you doing? I just thought I'd go in there.
Feet up on the couch. Sneakers on.
Go in your house
feet up on the couch.
You know what? I think I'm just going to give me a drink, man. I got a beer out your refrigerator. I'm like, dude.
No invite.
Yeah, nothing. So, come on.
Yeah, that's true. That shouldn't sit well with the team.
That shouldn't sit well with anybody. You're talking about the team. Anybody who would allow that kind of crap to happen.
Yeah.
To me, you're like, I just don't know. I was just blown away looking at Draymond do that. But then again, I was blown away with some of the things he did in game 2 when I talked about he just turned it into football. And
the way he was setting screening people.
The officials didn't make the call. And at that point, hey, officials ain't going to make the call. I'm going to take that in my hand. But I tell you what, I give him credit for this. He won a championship. And he was an integral part in winning that championship later on. And especially when it got to be good at the end and everybody was shooting well. Even Draymond knocking down trays, talking junk. And it just got to be a snowball effect. He was pushing the ball, the tempo up. They would make a steal, and then they would run up, and then they were cutting, going backdoor. Their offense was a thing of amazement, really, to see, because once they got it, the Celtics were very stagnant. And one play, we'll probably end up putting it in. You think of Tatum's legs at the end. It was one of those steals where Draymond was the only guy back, and instead of going all the way to the basket and trying to dunk it, Tatum went to the side and kind of almost – we had his back to the basket, throwing it up, didn't get the contact. Those were plays which were critical. And your best player, and it just said maybe it was his legs, maybe he was tired, whatever. But you're playing for the world championship, man. At that point, there are no excuses. I hope that they get a chance to go back, and I think they will. I just think they have to tweak their team. They have to find another legitimate scorer.
You know what Tatum needs to do, though?
When you have Brown and Tatum being scorers, Marcus Smart being a facilitator, there's a hole right here that Brad has to fix. You can have the Time Lord as your center, but I think you have to get a 2 guard to go along with those other shooters, and then change your offense so it's not an offense of guys sitting around looking at each other. Cut, pick, go towards the hole. That's what you're going to have to do.
But to answer your question about what happened with Tatum there, one thing that he needs to work on for sure is his left. I just feel like the Golden State Warriors did a really good job of making him uncomfortable in that way. And he tries to go back to his right a lot of the times. And I don't know. I just think that's a part of his game that stuck out a lot to me in a big way against the Warriors, the way they were defending him. And look, what you're saying about Draymond, I agree with. I just felt like the Celtics sort of, I don't want to say they got like bullied or whatever, but it was sort of just intimidated, I guess, right? They just got intimidated, I felt like.
Well, what's the word we would use back in it? Punked.
You got punked. Yeah, I mean, yeah. You know, like, I feel like if that was somebody else, people in the huddle would have backed them up, would have said, hey, what are you doing here?
Somebody would have backed that dude up, but nobody backed him up. And when a bully gets going, as we all know, when a bully gets going, the bully doesn't stop until somebody does something to put that bully back on his heels. Celtics never
not going to stop on his own.
Never did that. And especially when it starts to work. He saw it working. So, by it working, it's like, okay, we got it. Well, we got this, and this is what I'm going to do.
What do the Celtics need to improve on? Like, what if you had to think of one thing that this team needs right now is missing that could help them for next season, what's that one thing?
Well, they have to kind of give you a couple of things. One, they're going to have to improve their bench. I think Neesmith went out, his exit, he went out and said, hey, I'm a great shooter. Well,
phenomenal shooter, actually. Phenomenal.
Okay, and then how did you feel about that line?
I was surprised. I was surprised. I like the confidence, but it's one of those things where I would rather him show it and then back it up after the fact. You know what I mean? A little premature, in my opinion, especially because he was asked about Summer League, and it felt like he was he was like we had him back into a corner. He was just avoiding it. He wouldn't flat out say if he's going to go or not, but I don't know either way. I'm like, well, wait a minute here. So where are we going to see this phenomenal shooting? But yeah, I was surprised that Aaron
Celtics have to do something there. They have to get some more veterans, I think. And I think they'll get those, especially when you talk about a team on a run towards the championship. You can get the Otto Porters of the world. Otto Porter came in on a NBA minimum to play for Golden State. Mm-hmm. And when you get a guy like that,
so they have the mid-level. They have the mid-level.
Those are the things that the Celtics going to have to acquire. I mean, you gave those draft picks away for Derek White. Derek White was good. He kind of helped you get there. But when those lights came off after the second game, after the first game, I don't think we really saw that much more of Derek White.
Yeah, that's true.
We really didn't see that much of him knocking down shots, being that a guy, being aggressive, making steals. And it just boiled down to the Celtics kind of they ran out of cards to play. I mean, you had Tatum, you had Brown. You had Tatum, you had Brown, sometimes Smart. Al Horford was sticking there. I think the thing the Celtics didn't do enough in the last game, in game number 6, I don't think they used Al enough.
They tried a lot. They tried in the first half. They were giving it to him inside.
No, they did not give it to him.
But then they stopped.
The first play of the game, that's what they did.
Yeah, and then they did it again. And then they
first play of the game, and then they stopped. And you had a chance to go out and get another foul on Clay, and you never did because Al essentially stood out in the corner, and you did not find him. And because of that, I think it really hurt your cause.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. But yeah, that was a part of this whole run too. That was remarkable. Seeing Al just reach another level in the playoffs with all his experience and with everything that he was, the storyline going into the NBA Finals, man. Like, it was one of those people were rooting for him, whether you're a Celtics fan or not.
Yeah, he was Rudy. That's who he was. Everybody was like rooting for that movie,
Yeah. The classic.
Al was Rudy. I mean, he played with aggression. He played with passion. And you can look at every one of those series he played in, be it the series playing against Brooklyn. Then you would think of times when he was so dominant against Milwaukee, the dunk that he had on Giannis. Then you go to Milwaukee, and you go to Miami. There were many times he was dominant in that series, making plays. And then you got into this championship series. Game 1, Al was unbelievable. And
the
then
Celtics team especially.
Al was unbelievable. I think maybe it was another game. Al was pretty good, but they didn't
Game 6
enough for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just felt like gave the offense a lot of freedom to sort of figure things out. And when it came against the Golden State Warriors, it's just a lot of people just didn't show up, in my opinion. After game 1, it was a bit of a back and forth, but then once the Warriors got those back-to-back games, like you said, they took a lot from the Celtics, in my opinion, in terms of momentum and the confidence. But listen, this is the one thing we all have to remember, especially people watching and these Celtics fans that are beside themselves, don't know what to do, and they're really upset. This was always going into it was always going to be an evaluation year, not a bridge year, right? A lot of people saying that. I said, wait a minute, no. We have a good idea of what we got here, but with Brad Stevens in his new position, with the new head coach, we have to see how everything was going to mesh, and it meshed pretty damn well. It took a while. It took about half a season or so, but when they turned around, man, this was the most incredible turnaround I've seen ever in the NBA.
I mean, you look at this team and you said they were in the Eastern Conference. At one point, they were tied. Tied for what, 9th, 10th place?
10th place. 10th.
So you look at them, what they did, it's like, oh my God, there's no way that you think that they could not have been better or did what they needed to do.
2 games under 500. Remember that? 2 games under 500.
Yeah, I get it. I get exactly what you're saying. But then all of a sudden it clicked. Marcus Smart was running the offense. Rob Williams was the anchor on the defensive end. Then you had Al playing well. You had Tatum and Brown shooting it. But then you had other guys stepping up. Grant Williams had a really good year until the finals.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal until the finals.
The finals, yeah.
And
they really needed him in that series, Max. Yeah. They needed him in a big way.
That going to be his evaluation? Pritchard was really good against Miami, knocking down shots.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't evaluate him in the championship series. And White played great in the first game. And I thought he was decent defensively for the rest of them. But offensively, he was nowhere to be found after game 1. So there were a lot of holes and gaps. And you say all that, and you were 2 games from winning the championship. 2 games. 2 games. And you were ahead on these guys going up 2-1, had them in the third, had them in the 4th game, and then just let the road go to me.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's either going to make them or break them, right, Max? Yeah. And it sounds like you're on the side that you think it's going to make them, right? Because you don't want to blow this thing up, right? You're not buying into the craziness of people saying whether it was trade Marcus or I haven't heard the break the Jays up yet. They haven't revisited that conversation, but who knows? Who knows?
One day, maybe people will get their wish and Marcus Smart will be gone. And then you'll really see what you actually miss from Marcus. And I don't know, and I'll go with you. And you talked about what's happening over there in Fenway tonight.
Oh, that's right.
Manny,
my guy.
Manny
Ramirez.
I'm thinking about it. Is who has been more villainized in the city, Marcus or Manny?
Manny for sure. Marcus was on his way until the turnaround though. Mm-hmm. But probably Manny.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a whole other thing that you look at. But
he's in the Red Sox Hall of Fame. Shout out to Manny.
Right now, everybody see the first thing you see is Stephen A. Smith going, well, you got to get a point guard. You got to get a point guard. And then he mentioned a couple of people. He goes on and said Chris Paul. But there's only one Chris Paul that ever played. And the Chris Paul that we just saw that was 37 years old fell off a cliff that was huge. And so I don't think you're looking at him. What point guard is out there that you're going, wow, this guy will make you better? I mean, you tried with Kimba. You had Kimba as your point guard. Well, that didn't work for you. And then you got a defender. And look what happened to you. Again, you were that close. I think it was this one thing that pissed me off. I think it was, it kind of it made me laugh when I saw Steph Curry do like this. When he said, night, night, Celtics. But what pissed me off,
he took a picture with the...
But what really pissed me off about it...
He took a picture with the MVP trophy with it.
No, well, not even that. What really pissed me off, there's a picture going around. I have to send it to you. We'll put it on we'll put it out here. Was a picture of James Worthy doing
it. Yes. Yeah. Celebrating his team that didn't... Oh, yeah, the other...
Yeah, well, what a hater. What a damn hater that is.
It's the classic line. I root for the Lakers and anybody else who could beat the Celtics. That's how he lives.
And you can't be more of a hater right now than James Worthy was for that. That's crazy.
You know he didn't want the Celtics to get another title. Come on, Max, that would have hurt. Things are looking bleak. Things are bleak right now in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think that they're trying to find a way, but what is their way?
I was gonna say, what's your take on the Bradley Beal Beal report? How does that work?
How is Bradley Beal getting there? Well, wait a minute. Let me see. What do the Lakers have that you want if you're Washington? Who do you want? Only one I think you want right now, if you are Washington, you say, okay, if you're doing that, then we'll take Anthony Davis. And then what does that do? Where's that put you if you got...
I don't know. That's the report.
If you have Beal and your guy back together again, reuniting. How does that Westbrook, how does that work out? If you get those two back? I mean, if you're the Lakers, how can you even make that happen, Josue? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You don't have the assets to make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if you get a third team involved, but then what's in it for them, you know? I don't know. That'll be
third team involved to give the Lakers Bradley Beal.
To help them get Beal, yeah.
I don't even know how that's possible. And you look at the Lakers right now, and a lot of people right now, Vegas is right now favoring the Celtics right now as a team that's going to compete for the championship next year. Odds are with them. But if you look at the Lakers, man, what they're going to have to climb through over there, Phoenix is going to be back. Understand that. Everybody said, there was no super team in the NBA this year. Wasn't the Phoenix Suns, weren't they a super team? I mean, they won 62, 63 games. And then you look
I don't know if I call them a super team, though.
Well, who else won 60 games this year? Nobody.
Yeah. Well, I think when people hear super team, they're expecting, three, like, surefire Hall of Famers, something like that. But, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Well, I mean, you look at the guys they have right now. Chris Paul is going to be a Hall of Famer, right? No doubt.
No question.
And then you look at their shooter. Is he going to be one eventually if he keeps shooting that way? Devin Booker.
He's on pace to be one.
He's on pace to be one. I mean, but then you get all those other those ancillary pieces that go along with it.
The ones that the Celtics need. Yeah, that's a good point because the Suns have plenty of those. Yeah,
Suns have plenty of those guys that can shoot the ball and defend Bridges. Kyle Bridges,
Payne. Cameron Payne can get hot. Yeah.
So Phoenix had a really good team, and they got beat. They got beat worse than anybody I think ever to play in that kind of a 7-game series and playing at home.
That's a good point, Max. Because for a little bit, people thought that the Celtics were along the same line, right? Of having that depth, having these homegrown pieces that could complement Tatum and Brown. But after seeing what you saw in the NBA Finals, how do you feel about those guys, right? The Grant Williamses and the Peyton Pritchards and the Aaron Nesmith. I mean, can one of those guys be a realistic piece in the rotation for Ime? You know, we saw a lot of guys leave throughout the year. I mean, do you see a few of these guys latching on and being a significant piece?
Grant to me was probably the most disappointing piece that didn't perform well, and maybe he didn't have enough shots, enough looks. He got in foul difficulty, whatever it is. But Grant was that guy. He was the glue guy. He was your glue guy, and never really played well in that series. So I think that's one of the pieces you look at. But Pritchard, I love Pritchard as a player. I love his attitude. I love his cockiness. Is he ready for that? He really wasn't ready for that stage versus Golden State.
Well, he's saying he wants to play 20 minutes a night next season. You know, like that's a goal for him. You know, and that would be a significant improvement.
Hell, I want to make $1 million this year. Don't mean I'm gonna make it. I mean, because you want to do it. I mean, I think that
you got a million views, Max. How about that?
Yeah,
a couple million views.
I'll take the $1 million over $1 million views. And you look at him. He has arrogance. He has that cockiness about it, but he has to be able to make shots, especially wide open. And that's what the Celtics didn't happen. When you looked at that game and you look at it from the bench standpoint, Jordan Poole knocked down shots.
Ooh, man.
Big killer shots.
Yeah.
So after game one, you couldn't look at their bench and going, where you at? What you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. It was almost a goose egg one of those nights, you know?
Yeah. I mean, one night, Grant had 3 points. And essentially, that was it off the bench.
Yeah. That was the night, actually. Yeah, it was almost goose egg.
Is Rob Williams going to take that next level step? Willie. That's going to be a whole another story.
Yeah, that and Rob's health. I think that's something that a lot of people are going to be talking about into this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, we got you covered. Cedric Maxwell podcast, talking Celtics offseason and whatever the heck else we want to talk about, right, Max? We can go off script in a big way this summer, so that should be fun.
That should be fun, man. And stay tuned. Who knows? Celtics don't have any picks. We know that. But
yeah, nothing in the first round.
I think what they do, they have some cap room, cap flexibility, and
trade exceptions. A lot of trade.
They essentially go down. You keeping maybe 1 or 2 guys, maybe 3 at the maximum that can help you on that bench, but everything else, you might just have to push to the wayside to find some of those players that you think about Golden State. They won it. And Wiseman, who is a big-time shot blocker, he didn't even play this year. This dude didn't even play. So Golden State with their culture and Steph Curry, they would be the inside track to me to win it again. Although the West is loaded, but the way they play, but you look at Memphis. Memphis is going to be up and coming. So there are a lot of teams that I look and say, the Lakers saying they're going to get there. I don't know how they get there, above those teams.
Right. But you're still feeling pretty good about the Celtics stacking up against the Eastern Conference. I mean, I'm sure we're going to have changes and trades and stuff go down during the summer.
Okay, well, tell me what's going to, here's the thing I'll ask you first. What's going to happen with Kyrie? Let me pick your brain. What's going to happen right now?
Oh, man. We might have to put a teaser in here for the next episode. What's going to happen to Kyrie? If I'm a betting man and I have to pick someone right now, the Knicks.
That he's going to be playing with the Knicks?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Something tells me he's not going to be in Brooklyn, though. I don't know, Max. This thing looks fishy. Boy, maybe I'm wrong.
That's a brain teaser because he is a free agent, right? Completely.
No, he's got a year left on his contract, but the reports are that they're not looking to re-sign and that they could be looking to move him. So, wow. Yeah, he has 1 year left, so it would have to be.
But you're not
the Knicks. unless it's something that they're willing to risk for 1 year. I don't know. I gotta check out the logistics. We'll do it next episode.
Look, you can't send him across the river, though, can you?
I mean, if you're really in a space where you're saying to yourself, look, he's unpredictable. We don't know what the back situation is going to be like, and he's not exactly helping us. I mean, you're willing to take that risk, but again, you're going to have to take a pretty good trade package in return. I don't think the Nets are just going to give him away, so they're going to play hardball.
I mean, the thing about it, if you're Brooklyn though, and you're the Knicks, these are all the things you talk about. But I'm always looking at the pieces that you have that you can send out, that you can get a Kyrie Irving. I mean, look what happened with James Harden. Well, he'd be in Philly this coming year. I mean, he's going to opt into a contract with about 45, 50 million on it. And Embiid was really good. And so, I mean, Atlanta kind of, peed the bed, and Charlotte was up and down. So I don't see Toronto being that team again, stepping up. I tell you, a dark horse team.
Plus Brooklyn has to walk. They have to push Ben Simmons onto a court, so that's not going to be easy either. So, look, it doesn't get any easier for Brooklyn, man.
Woo! I forget.
Shit is down in Brooklyn. Shit is not. It is not. It's not all good.
I forgot about that.
That's a whole nother issue, man. That's a whole nother bag of worms.
Man, you know what? It didn't even dawn on me. If you said, all I could think was Kyrie, and I could think of Durant. But my mind didn't even say anything at all. It didn't even register. I feel like the guy on what was that? Home Alone.
Like that's what it looked like you did. You were so shocked.
Ben Simmons.
And then you just pictured Ben Simmons just like not in uniform. You're like,
crazy.
That's the Nets fan base right now.
That is absolutely crazy.
You know how Biggie says it's all good? It's all good, baby, baby? No, not all good in Brooklyn right now. Not all good in Brooklyn.
Wait, I thought you guys
down.
Jay-Z from Brooklyn, didn't he? And he was always
right.
And he stayed at the Warriors game. So, man, you're talking about guys that kind of turned their back on the Knicks. The guy I'm surprised I didn't see any of those games was actually Spike Lee. Spike Lee always goes one way or the other, but I didn't even see Spike. So it was just kind of crazy thinking about it. And
I can't believe he went to the Nets game.
Again, you and your ace reporting will always go down in this year with me. And then you really
hey, those interviews were lit. What you mean, man? That 1-on-1 with Gary, man, he was spitting fire.
What 40? Ooh, what kind of 40 was that?
40.
You're looking at me like,
just the way you were looking at him, I was like, he does not know who E40 is. Like zero chance he knows who he's talking to right now. Oh man, I forgot about that. We didn't mention that.
And then E40 hitting me off with, I'm like, yo man, what's that? How you doing? What's going? Good luck to you. You're gonna ping pong. And the funny thing was, white people did not understand what the hell he was saying. I mean, our station went on it. Our 98.5 went on it, a rant and saying, what were those two black guys talking about?
Is this how they always talk?
And no one should look on my face like, huh? Who are you?
So I was waiting for the producer to chime in and be like, hey, guys, I don't want that to sound like that, but I have more than one black friend and they don't talk like this. I've never heard this side of it.
It was so funny. Your guy, Arcan's there, so I'm surprised he didn't come to your rescue and, just he loves himself from Josue.
Well, I mentioned the Gary story before we had the first interaction on video. So that was a precursor, I guess, to what was a whole nother thing I didn't see coming with Draymond and that whole thing in it, man. That was wild. I forgot about E40. E40, the whole interaction was funny and I love that, but man, I wanted the father-son interview, and he crushed that. Like he just destroyed that possibility because, little Gary Payton is like, wait, what's going on here? Versus E40, I love how Gary introduced you to him. You guys exchange, hey, nice to meet you. And then E40 just comes out of nowhere. And then I think that threw off Gary Payton II. He was just like, all right, I'm going to just let these guys get acquainted with one another. I'm going to get at it. I'm like, no, I want you back. I want the interview with all three of you guys, at least. Me, the father-son, and with Max to start things off would have been perfect, but couldn't get it.
It didn't work, but you know what?
Unpredictable.
It was a great season. It was a great season for us with the Cedric Maxwell podcast.
Absolutely.
And we want you guys to mash that button and subscribe because the content we try to give you is, as we say, what we trying to do?
Yeah, we try to keep it on 100.
Keep it on 100 here. What we do? We keep it on 100 all the time. So anything
that's what we do here.
Anything, questions, and anything you'd like for us to talk about basketball or anything in particular, we're kind of versed with that, but we'd love for you to subscribe, and you make us stronger by hitting that like button and subscribing to us. Absolutely.
And for the new listeners, welcome. We did get quite a boost with all this you and Draymond and Gary Payton stuff, man. But we haven't, because of the traveling back and forth, obviously, one crazy series, it was about a week or so, it's been a couple weeks since we had our last episode, but we're back. We appreciate the support, guys. And of course, like Max said, subscribe, like and subscribe. It really helps us out, guys.